Welcome to r/Am I the Devil, where OP marries his brother's girlfriend. Our next Reddit post is from Husband, Father, Brother. When I was in my mid-20s, my younger brother, Ezra, who was 19, went away to an out-of-state school. I just finished my own stay at my university, so I went back home to find an apartment close to family. Ezra's girlfriend, Melanie, who's 19, also stayed behind to study at a local college. Her and I would hang out once in a while. I didn't realize at first that I was playing with fire by doing this. Melanie and I got closer. We would go to the movies, grab a bite, and we would hang out at family dinners. Ezra couldn't be there, but my dad would extend invites to Melanie, who Ez dated all through high school. They had always planned to get married after school, so we considered her family. My dad also remarried, so we were trying to build new bonds with his new wife and her kids, one of which was close in age to Melanie. I guess things began to get messy when my dad's new wife began to comment that I looked better with Melanie. I had a stable job and I was ready to start my life and settle down. Melanie was offended at first, but as we grew closer, she began to also make similar comments. Ez would come down for summer or some weekends where they would still sleep together and function like a couple. But when Ez left, Melanie would be with me. Things got physical one night after I reacted jealously at her and Ez snuggling up. It was the turning point I'd been waiting on. I know now that I was wrong, and I'm not proud of any of this. My dad and his wife were at odds over my relationship with Melanie. My dad was actually furious with me and demanded we stop. Melanie was disinvited from family dinners, and my dad reached out to my mom to tell her about us. My dad's wife had the opposite opinion. I have another sibling, Aaron, who suspected that something was off. Things came to a head when Aaron took Ez aside during a visit to let him know what he had learned. Aaron has always had it out for me, or so I believe. It's a story for another day. But what happened after set my whole life in motion in the direction it's been for the last decade. It's been just over 10 years since Ezra discovered what we had done and set the whole family on fire. He blew up at our parents and my dad's wife for her involvement and their silence, and then Ez just left. It took a while, maybe 8 months, but he left and I've never seen him again. Those 8 months, I was not a kind person. After Melanie was embarrassed and mistreated by Ez for cheating, I immediately took her in and we became official. Our family disapproved for a while, but eventually they came around. She fell pregnant and I proposed. Her parents and my parents learned of this and agreed that it was best for the baby that we get married, so they paid for everything. It was a humble wedding, but my family pulled through for me and showed up. During this time, Aaron continued to lecture my parents about their involvement with our relationship and their abandonment of Ezra. I understand that he was in pain and needed them, but I did too. I was becoming a new father and husband. I was looking into buying my first home, starting my first big job, and planning a wedding. I didn't expect Ezra to suck it up, but they're my parents too. My parents were preoccupied with us, so much so that Ezra moved a few towns over and we didn't notice until a few months or so. We used to see him around town where he worked, but we noticed that we stopped seeing him. I reached out only to find that his number had been changed. Aaron was no help. He just gave criticisms and warnings about Ezra's well-being. No kind words for me, Melanie, or our child though. I lost 2 brothers, basically. Eventually, our wedding grew closer and invitations were sent out. No response from Ez or Aaron, which I expected, so I asked my mom to verify with them. I heard back that the answer was no. What we found was that they were completely gone. Aaron had a longtime girlfriend who RSVP'd no to our wedding and clammed up about where my brothers went off to. Another aunt, who took Aaron and Ez's side, said that they were safe and we needed to move on, so that was that. I'm sad to say that I haven't seen them in 10 years. My parents were obviously distraught and regretful. It put a huge damper on our wedding and the birth of my child. It remains a gray cloud over our lives to this day. I thought that we had moved on by the time Melanie and I had another kid. My parents seemed happy to be with me and my remaining brothers, and they saw that Mel and I were serious about our relationship, an ideal match. Soon enough, though, my mom decided to voice her regrets to me and Melanie personally. When she first found out about our relationship, she was staunchly against us, but came around when Mel fell pregnant. Now, she maintains that she made a mistake where she lost 2 sons. Her relationship with Mel has suffered greatly. My dad's family is much more welcoming to Mel, like she's one of their own. My dad does miss his sons, but he also loves his grandkids. He was content with this for a long time, until my mom located Aaron and Ezra. It hurt to feel that she would prefer to have held on to them and lose me and my sons in the process. She found out that they were both married, Aaron to his longtime girlfriend who eventually moved away years ago, and Ezra to some unknown woman. Both have a good amount of children, more than I have in fact. My mother got therapy and reached out to my brothers and made contact with Ez. Aaron declined to reconcile. So she's been in contact with him for a year, even going as far as taking my younger brothers with her to spend Christmas with Ez and his family. I've seen pictures of his sons and daughters and his wife too. I thought about keeping this from my dad, but I come from a gossipy family, so I did show him what I found on my mom's Facebook before they could. My dad was overcome again, as if the wound was freshly exposed. He felt like he missed out on a lot and couldn't bear it. He looked at the images for a long time and eventually called my mom, and they spoke for hours. So I sit here with fractured relationships everywhere. My mom doesn't approve of me or my family. Mel and my mom don't speak. My dad is heartbroken. Ezra and Aaron took off and built a life with their own families. From pictures, it seems like they're still close, and even though Aaron doesn't speak to our mother, his wife and kids do. My wife is beginning to get insecure about my feelings that I have towards her. She wonders if I regret her and the kids. I want to fix this. I failed to fix it before, but I need to now. I don't know how to repair it though. How can I make amends for a marriage and life that I don't regret? OP basically dropped a nuclear bomb on that bridge, and then 10 years later is like, how do I rebuild this bridge, you guys? You don't. You completely wrecked your family and ruined your brothers' lives. It's a bit late for apologies. Our next Reddit post is from Disastrous Reply. Am I the butthole for making my ex-wife pay me for a car seat? I'm a 38-year-old man, and I split from my wife, who's 39, almost 3 months ago. We have 2 kids, and this post is about our 5-year-old son. It wasn't the worst of breakups, but it definitely wasn't my choice, and I hate how she went about it. We'd been struggling for a few years, and yeah, I admit I probably could have tried harder in couples therapy and stuff, but she basically up and left one day, saying she was tired of trying. Anyway, not to get too deep here, but basically, I think the way she left was screwed up. Since our son is so young, he still needs a car seat. When she left, she drove off with the car seat, leaving me without one for my son. I was pissed and wanted it back, but she said that since she still is the one doing all the school drop-offs and pickups, I was out of luck, and passing it back and forth all the time meant that she couldn't set boundaries with me. Whatever. So I had to go buy a new one so that I could spend time with my son. But what I didn't know is that at the same time, she asked her sister, my sister-in-law, to give me her spare car seat. Her sister had a daughter who died unexpectedly a few years ago when she was about 4. But by then, I already had one, so I ended up with 2 car seats after her sister dropped it off when I wasn't home. A couple of weeks ago, my ex's car was broken into and everything was stolen, including the car seat that she took. She texted me and asked me to drop off her niece's old car seat at our next handover. But I didn't think that was fair. She left me, she took the car seat, I didn't make her sister or her give me a free car seat. And now that her car was stolen, I didn't see why that was my problem. She also could have used her niece's old car seat when she first left, but she chose to take the one in the car. So I told her I would only bring it back if she paid me for it. Her sister gave it to me, so it's mine now, no one else's. I told her she could buy it off me for $100. It costs way more than that on the market. Or she could buy another one on her own. She was pissed, but eventually sent me the money and I brought her the car seat. I thought it was fair and equal, considering what she did. But my ex-sister-in-law, who I actually always liked and was sort of maintaining a relationship with, has stopped talking or texting me since this, saying that I'm out of line and that if her daughter were alive today, she'd be disappointed in me. I really didn't think that I did anything unfair and was just maintaining the boundaries that my ex asked for. It's also extra screwed up to me that a dead girl is being used to shame me when I did nothing wrong in the first place, and my ex is the one who got us here. So am I the butthole? OP, you're trying to take advantage of a lady who has a dead daughter and gave you her daughter's stuff for free, and you're trying to make a buck off that? That is scumbag behavior. OP clearly has a chip on his shoulder and is just looking for opportunities to make his wife miserable. Our next Reddit post comes from r/self. I regret every second that I cheated on my wife. I cheated on my wife last summer. I was spiraling in depression for years, and towards the end, I started blaming everything on my loved ones, including my wife. My female colleague was there. She was understanding and warm. She cared. We had intercourse. The guilt was crippling, and I told my wife. I think she was in shock at first, but eventually she told me that it was over between us. She never shed a single tear or yelled or begged. We have 2 daughters together. Everyone but me could see that my colleague lost all interest in me gradually, and 2 weeks ago she broke things off. I dropped my girls off at their mother's on Sunday. It was the first time I didn't celebrate Christmas with them. My wife looked happy and content. I just realized that she was the bright light in my depression and always had been, and yet I blamed her for feeling awful because I liked the attention of someone else. My wife asked me how I was because I looked depressed. I couldn't tell her anything, just that I was fine, but that it felt weird that this was the first Christmas that I was spending alone. I told her that my relationship was over. Her expression didn't change. She didn't even look like she was gloating. She just simply said, "Well, you could always tell her that we're back together if you want a relationship with her." I was taken aback by how calm and sure she sounded. When I got home, I tried it. Not because I wanted anything to do with my colleague. I was just curious why my wife would believe that. Since then, my colleague has been sending me tons of texts, warm and flirtatious, asking me if I missed her and if I had the time to meet. I threw my life away for this. Yo, that wife dropped a burn. That was that was a funny burn. And this doofus thought, that's actually pretty good advice. The top comment from Calcutta Too Much is, your wife is hilarious for this, I fear. Our next Reddit post is from Few Edge. I'm a 33-year-old guy who spent most of my adult life in relationships. Very long ones, short ones. I've never been single for more than a few months. I have serious attachment issues, and every breakup hits me like a ton of bricks. I idealize my exes, dive straight into hardcore dating, and end up in a new relationship before I even process the last one. While in a relationship, I always feel stuck between wanting to stay and wishing I were single again because of fear of missing out. Last year, I finally made my lifelong dream come true. I quit my job and started traveling the world. It's been amazing, but as much as I love this freedom, I can't ignore the internal pressure to settle down and start a family. I've always wanted 2 kids before 35, and while I could stretch that goal a little, I don't want to wait until I'm 40. I met my current girlfriend, who's 25, earlier last year. She's from a third world country, 8 years younger than me, and before anyone assumes anything, this isn't some passport bro situation. She never had plans to leave her country, and I wasn't even looking for a relationship or dating girls in that place. It just happened pretty randomly. I'm 100% sure that she's genuine. Things escalated when we had a pregnancy scare. That experience really deepened my feelings for her, and after that, we traveled together for a few months. We got along great. She's back in her home country now, and I'm in mine. The plan is to meet up for another trip soon, after which she'll visit my country to see if she could imagine living here. If she likes it, the next step would be marriage and her relocating permanently. But here's the thing, visa, travel, and relocation are expensive. Within the next few weeks, I have to decide if I want to continue with this relationship or not. Then OP writes out a pros and cons list, and I'm just going to skip over the pros because it's a bunch of boring compliments, and the cons is where the r/Amithedevil content comes in. She doesn't earn much money, so I'll have to cover most of the costs. Her travel, her move to my country, and probably a large portion of our life together. Even if she finds work here, it won't be well paid, and our finances will always be tight. I'm worried she won't be happy in my country. She doesn't speak the language, which is tough. She has no friends here, and our cultures are complete opposites. Integrating will be a major challenge. While I find her attractive, she's not the most beautiful woman I've ever dated. My ex was more physically attractive, and that thought remains bothering me a lot. I don't like her native culture too much. The food is average, most people are just after the money, and I don't want to spend my life traveling there every year. She's very young and inexperienced. Sometimes I feel more like her mentor or parent than her equal. That said, she's very smart for her age and eager to learn. Communication is tricky. She avoids conflict and often says yes even when she means no. That'll take some time and effort to improve. She's jealous and insecure. It's her first relationship, and there's a steep learning curve for both of us. On the one hand, I feel like she's the one. She's everything I've prayed for over the years. It would be crazy to let her go just because I'm chasing some stupid fantasy of someone better. If I continue behaving like this, I'll never be happy because there's always someone better. But on the other hand, this might be my last chance to travel the world solo, have the time of my life, save money, and possibly meet someone local without all the complications that I really don't fancy. OP is a massive bundle of insecurities and hypocrisy that is best suited never being in a relationship. It honestly sounds like OP is incapable of being content in a relationship because he's honestly pretty entitled. How can you say this girl is everything you prayed for, but then have a giant con list about how you hate her culture and you don't see how you two are compatible? Huh? That was r/Amithedevil, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.